day 2 of lives this week to talk about the truth behind perimenopause. And say hi if you're watching. Today we're going into why perimenopause feels harder for modern women. So let's have a little dive into this together. Can we firstly be honest for a moment? Because perimenopause isn't just hard for women right now, it feels overwhelming. So I think that's the word that I hear most often, overwhelming. And today we're going to have a look at why that is. And it's not because you're doing anything wrong. I think a lot of the time as women we can internalize, these feelings and blame ourselves. But let's be honest, it's because modern day life is completely out of sync with what the female body needs during this transition and the lack of education about what we need. And when we understand this, everything starts to make a lot more sense. So when we think about it, if you think about your phone, you're on your phone, your battery gets to 1%, you've got loads of apps open, so your phone's like, and that's basically, our systems as women. There's so much going on, we can't keep up. You've got your family chat group on WhatsApp, you've got the kids' school groups on WhatsApp, you're working, maybe you might be looking after your parents, you've got your job, your partner. There's so much going on. Or on the other side of things, if you haven't had children, if you haven't got a partner, there can be like an emotional burden and a heaviness surrounding those aspects too. There's a lot going on at this time for women, and everybody is in their own journey with it and figuring it out for themselves. And this is what we want to change. We want more education, more community, more support for women. So many women that I speak to now are experiencing lots of symptoms. So anxiety they've never had before, sleep issues, exhaustion, brain fog, mood swings, weight changes. And a lot of us are thinking, why is this so intense? And we've been told women have always been through menopause. We got through it. You've just got to get through it. But it does feel slightly different, and what is going on? As I've mentioned before, there's so much in our society that's happening all at once. And so that's a lot for our nervous system. Our nervous systems are overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed. We're constantly switched on. As I said, phones, notification, work, pressure, everything happening all at once. Social stuff in the news, it's a lot for one person's system. And here's the science behind why it's a lot. When your body is stressed, it produces more cortisol, and your body will actually prioritize the stress hormone over your sex hormones. So what does this mean actually in the body? So as we're going through perimenopause, our hormones are dropping, especially progesterone. Estrogen tends to fluctuate, so we see it as dropping, but actually it rises and falls, and that can cause a little bit of chaos in the system. Progesterone, as it drops, cortisol, our stress hormone, can steal from progesterone, but it can't go the other way back. So this means that our symptoms increase, anxiety and sleep issues get worse. So this is the layering of the body, and this is what I love about this work. We can see that in our emotional side of life. We can see it, we can understand how it's unfolding, but the science is also there to back this up. It's not random. Your body is literally trying to keep you safe, but it's silently affecting your hormones. It's like driving a car and ignoring the red light, the warning light for years, and you keep going, but eventually the signals will be getting louder and louder. And perimenopause is that moment, it's that time. It's your body saying, I need attention now. And that can be our luteal phase. When we're cyclical living, we have the different phases of our cycle. The luteal phase is the time just before your period. And that can be our time where we have our sacred rage, where it shows us the things in our lives that maybe aren't in alignment, that aren't really working. And perimenopause in some kind of menstrual health lineages is like a vast kind of luteal phase. So this is why it can be important as well for women to really get to know their cycle and really get to grips with that luteal phase, because that'll get you prepared as well for perimenopause, both hormonally and through the emotional kind of a mental journey of perimenopause. So when we think about all of this, we also think about the world that we live in as a patriarchal society. And we know that is just facts of the way that we live because, you know, men have kind of founded the modern day, if you like. We're living in a world that expects us to keep going at the same pace. It has been founded on men's hormones. It's even how they came up with happy hour after work, the rhythm of a man's 24-hour cycle of his hormones. And society values youth, motherhood, the maiden, productivity, and not really rest, the crone, you know, deeper wisdom. We're taught to push through, stay productive, keep performing, keep going. And so therefore to do that, we often turn to quick fixes to keep going, even when our body is clearly asking for something different. And there is little space for rest, for slowing down, for cyclical living. And again, it comes back to even education, taking the time to understand our bodies, which, as we know, does alleviate overwhelm. So if we go back to the analogy that I used yesterday, which you can watch yesterday, I spoke about my own journey through perimenopause and why this has become such important work to me and to share with other women. So if we use the analogy of starting a new job like we did yesterday, and you don't know what you're doing, you have no tools, you have no instructions, you're going to feel overwhelmed because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to navigate the situation. You don't know what's being asked of you. And so when it comes to menopause, it's exactly the same. We don't understand what's going on in our bodies. We don't have the tools to help us. Even if we did understand, we don't have the tools and we don't have the wisdom to feel empowered and educated to do that part of, you know, being a woman. So when we end up feeling like we're failing, we kind of feel like everything's falling apart. We don't know why. Maybe relationships are being effective. You just don't feel like yourself anymore. And you just don't know how to operate in this everyday system that actually doesn't support us as women. And if we add in a few more layers to that, you know, we are living in a nutrient deficient society as well. We're more depleted than ever, you know, higher stress levels, dieting. If you're the same age range as me, you'll remember the dieting fads all through my life. I think I've done them all. And that doesn't support your hormones. And now it seems to be coming round again, which all of my menstrual health teachings, just, you know, nutrition and supporting the body in that way is so important for our menstrual health. We may be under exercising, over exercising, rushing around, and even the foods that we're eating are less nutrient. And then we hit perimenopause, and that build up of all those years can come out. We're more sensitive during this time. We actually need more support, not less. So symptoms can feel louder as we're already running on empty. And then also we have the toxin overload and inflammation, which I'll talk about later on in the week. I don't want to go into that too much right now. But we have environmental toxins, endocrine disruptors, and inflammation. And all of this is impacting our hormones. So it's no wonder that the modern day woman is just struggling a little bit with perimenopause. She needs a minute. she needs to take a minute. And it's not just her hormones, it's the whole system that needs support. So when women say, why does this feel so bad? You know, why is this so hard? Why does it feel so bad? And we blame ourselves. We now know perimenopause is the point as well where we're exposing what we need to change. It's our undertone of what we've put up with. As I said, estrogen's a great buffer for when we're younger. As we come into perimenopause, it's that time to kind of take our power back and really step into. And this is something that I'm going to speak about in a minute, is really, you know, can we harness this journey as partly a rite of passage? So this is exactly what I experienced. And again, you can go to the video from yesterday to have a look. It wasn't just hormonal. If you think about my journey, it was stress, my nervous system, everything I'd been holding in my body, my womb up until that point. And when I started to work my body as a whole, everything changed. And that's when things started to shift. So remember, just to reiterate, it's not about those quick fixes. That's kind of what we're looking for. But actually, when it comes to this work, it's all about education understanding, and just making those small lifestyle shifts that can make a really big impact in your world. And it's just so important. And this is why I work with women and do the work that I do. We don't just look at hormones, we do look at the nervous system, nutrition, inflammation, lifestyle. You know, every woman has her own ecosystem, every woman is bio individual. It's about getting to know you, your hormone kind of blueprint, what's been happening for you, you know, your whole hormonal life to get to where you are now. And there are tools that you can use to track that, so to understand your biomarkers of your hormones. And then often that will be reflected in the emotional landscape, the spiritual landscape, and there are journeys that you can do and work on all layers to bring it back into balance. So I'm going to be talking about this more still throughout the week, and obviously next Sunday I'm offering a masterclass where you can come and join and get my full roadmap I use to support my body naturally, and how you can start to do the same. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about the health scare that completely changed my perspective on menstrual health, and obviously then shifted my perimenopause journey. So one last thing that I would love to speak to is it's a little bit of a wild card. Talking about this layering that I've been speaking about, talking about honouring ourselves as a layered being, getting the right education to be kind to your body through proven scientific nutritional advice and wisdom, hormonal science, so that you get how your body works, getting the tools to support your mental and emotional well-being and your menstrual health, honouring emotions and making that time and space for you, and then looking and receiving the bigger picture, your wisdom and your power. So this is something that I'd love to gently kind of put out there, and because women are struggling so much in perimenopause, it is a little bit, like I said, of a wild card. So the way that I've started to see it was that I wasn't present in Menarche when I first started my periods. Like, I was young, we were teenagers, you know, there wasn't the you know, the wisdom, it hadn't been passed down through grandmothers to mothers, because of, you know, we've lost that wisdom over the years because of patriarchy. So when I come into menopause, I kind of am a little bit excited because I get to be present for this rite of passage. And I think for me, as somebody that likes to understand things, you know, my brain, I really, really love learning. And this is why it's been important to me to understand all layers. If it was just about the rite of passage, I'd still feel a little bit lost, I think. Whereas when we learn about the science and the education and the wisdom, and also we come to it from that place of understanding, we can feel empowered, and then we can be present for the rite of passage. You know, I'm really blessed in the fact that I can come into menopause and I don't feel scared. There's no fear. I'm not scared of what might come up for me. And that is rare today from people that I've spoke to, from many women that I've spoke to, from hearing, you know, partners to women going through menopause and what they're going through. And I think, again, I've probably said education 57 times in this video, but that is really what it boils down to. When we're feeling overwhelmed because we don't understand what's going on, we don't know what path to take. But when we have the right education, when we understand what's going on in our bodies, we then don't need to fear it. And, you know, there are tools that we can teach that, like I said, give you the biomarkers of your hormone blueprint so that you understand what's going on in your body. And that can mean whether you take a holistic route or whether you go to the doctors with that wisdom to help support you finding the right extra support that you need and understanding what that may be for you. But imagine if all women had that. Imagine if we all had that deeper understanding from a place of empowerment and not fear. How incredible would that be? And that is what I'm on a mission to do. So thank you so much for joining me. Take care. Have a lovely day.